Hello and welcome to Comedy in a Nutshell, the podcast where I talk to the people in comedy about comedy. You know, I often get asked if I've thought about doing comedy myself, and while I've had a brush with amusement in the past, I stick to the old adage that those who can't do, teach. And I suppose those who can't teach have a podcast. I'm the comedy nerd who's seen more than 1,500 comedians perform live comedy, and you can find out more about my journey in fandom on my website, thecomedynerd.com. If you like to hear what comedians have to say as much as I do, then please like, subscribe, rate, review, and share the podcast. Thank you. My guests this episode are described as the Northeast's answer to Monty Python and bring their quirky sketch comedy to the Edinburgh Fringe for the first time this year. With multiple online sketches, including their Ring Doorbell series, they promise, or threaten, a new understanding of the word entertainment. It's Jack Robertson and Caden Elliott from sketch group Metroland. So why don't you tell me how the group came together to begin with?
Do you want to take this, Caden?
Okay, I'll take it. So me and Jack have been friends for quite a few years. Kind of meeting sort of at that crucible age of like I was about 20, Jack was about 18, and we just go out hanging around in our cars. Well, in my car, driving, talking about ideas, making up sort of ideas for films, and sometimes we go and shoot some things with our friends, and that's kind of how we developed our relationship. Was quite creative from the off. And after a few years, Jack trying to make it as an actor, I was working as crew in TV and trying to get my own short films and such off the ground. We just both kind of found ourselves at a crossroads of like not knowing really where to go, what to do, who to approach, all of that kind of dilemma where you've gotten so far down a certain path, but yet it seems like the path's kind of left you by. And I was living in a caravan because we got evicted from our family home, and I'd been burdened with the dying dead dog, and I was out of work, and I just found out that I'd gotten a girl pregnant and we weren't together, and that was all kind of weighing down on us, and Jack kind of saw that, and he saw it as an opportunity to come and just come hang out with us in that kind of time, and he came prepared with this idea that he wanted to just go out and shoot a sketch show called Metroland, and I was immediately like, absolutely. I didn't realize that was the one question I was waiting for someone to ask us.
Yeah, I think we both came to a joint crossroad of having that drive and energy to I guess to be proactive, because it's fleeting. It doesn't always happen that easily, and I think we really hit a crescendo of just feeling like we couldn't really break through the mold, so to speak. We were kind of like stuck in the same point and spot. And we're both from Newcastle, but we're not London based. There is that saying of having to sort of shout louder than everyone else to try and get the attention of people who can really help you get to that next stage. And I think it was just nice that we shared in this joined energy of, right, we need to just get something done and get something made, and whatever that may be, let's just have fun with it. And we obviously also had the connection of Metroland, which is sort of an old indoor theme park that was in a shopping centre in Gateshead in the northeast Newcastle, and we as a standalone name away from the actual theme park, it did just it felt right. It just spoke to us both immediately, and it felt crazy to not just attack it and instead of waiting for someone to give it to you.
Yeah. And when you talked about being actors and making films beforehand, was comedy always a theme? Were you making comedic movies, and were you acting in comedic projects?
We had made a couple of things. Well, I had been involved in a couple of things that were kind of comedy. A lot of our friends who we were making things with did take the filmmaking quite seriously. We would find, at least for myself, I would find me and Jack kind of laughing in the background and suggesting things that we thought were funny to kind of interject what we thought was maybe sometimes a bit of a lackluster script or energy on set, where we would try and lift that with some humor or some inside jokes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it came from the again just being able to kind of pick up a camera and make stuff. Naturally, when you're improvising dialogue, the instinct is for it to make it funny anyway, or to kind of I guess sort of like keep it light. But we were always just trying to, yeah, I guess just trying to get something off the ground. I know even the student film days, as an actor, like going through college, you would want to get cast for these really serious roles, but I would keep getting compliments on my comedy and how good my comedy timing was, and I think that did just come from the improvise. I like get a camera rolling, and it's like, right, just start talking. Let's start entertaining, and the instinct to the guy. I guess there was like a comedy urge in both of us that I think really kind of unearthed in Metroland, and we were always kind of just teasing with it up until that point, and then it did just sort of make sense. It was like that I think this is what we were meant to do.
I remember actually just on that. I remember one of the first things that we. Do you remember this, Jack? Well, I mean, I bet you haven't forgot, but we came up with this idea of the double inhale, right? Where it's like if you normally inhale, we would so at the moment of exhale, you try and inhale again and then exhale. And we would just try and get that into conversations, or just try and just get it if we could, like just get it in. And I know Jack, we tried getting it into like films and stuff, just like in the back, like an unseen thing that really only made us laugh. But we used to do that quite a bit.
Well, yeah, physically, it just looks like a man who's actively trying to lose all of the breath in his body, while trying to sigh. But yeah, I know that's quite a difficult joke to explain over a podcast as well, because it is very very physical. But we found that funny, and like that's something you can sort of fit in the background, or because I think we work on stuff together, and I was always playing a smaller role or a bit part sort of a character, and then Caden, even though he'd be from a background of being a director, and you'd be doing sound on stuff that we'd work on together because we knew mutual people, but we were always kind of trying to throw in little nuances, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like, it was a lot of fun, and how dare us doing that on other people's jobs? Because we'd hate it if someone did that to us.
I'd kick off. Yeah.
Did you know what Metroland was going to be when you came together, when you started out? Did you have a plan?
No, not really. It was a really beautiful accident. We I guess it was but what I will say was it was quick. Once we'd found it, and once we'd sort of stepped on it, it was an immediate feeling of like, oh yeah, I think this is definitely something that I think's bigger than just one sole person. I'd started playing all of the characters because I'd started writing all of the characters in the beginning, and once we'd stepped onto this tone of comedy, I immediately had an instinct that I guess as much as I love things like the Limmy Show, or or like maybe something like Trigger Happy TV, where it's usually the main guy. It's like one guy who plays all these other sort of roles. There was something about when people were watching our sketches in retrospect, and they were talking about how much you realized how much other people got it, and then you kind of don't really have to they don't have to be an actor to work with them. They can just be a fan of comedy. They know they know their palette. So it's nice when and then it becomes bigger. It becomes bigger than one sole person. It becomes this this communal sharing, and this sense of humor that I think is just really funny, because it's not it is just we're just engaging in stuff that instinctually makes us laugh. We're not trying to sort of send a message or say anything. It's not trying to be something that it isn't, and we knew that from the start. So I think that was like, it was quite an immediate sort of, oh wow, yeah, we've definitely got to just keep doing more of this. We can't stop this.
Yeah, Jack came to me in that caravan. I think he had 9 scripts that he'd already written, and we managed to film 6 of them before the pandemic came in. And that was kind of like a great like jumping off point, because we had so much to work and talk about, and kind of we just had a great like platform to go from. But I guess we also were kind of working as a response to some sketches that had been made. It was like a series called Them Up North or something, and it was primarily sort of northeast, mainly sort of Geordie centric sketches. And I just remember me and Jack hating them. And like it was almost like okay, we know we've got this kind of blueprint that we want to work from, and we definitely know we don't want to do what they've just done in that sense. And I think it was more of I think where people can maybe make fun of the caricature of the dialect, the accent, the stereotypes of, I guess, any people, but especially the Geordies, is, because normally it is in fun, and it's not yet we wanted it to be rooted in an identity from that, but not necessarily using them, I guess, stereotypes or tropes, but if rather the comedy not being that, but coming from a place of being Geordie.
Right.
I guess as well, this was just a little realization that I had the other day as well. I think what it is a shared love for the humor and the comedy that comes out of it, and the fact that there's all people from the same area who are seen as like small town people. This humor does translate to kind of anywhere. It doesn't have to be in Newcastle, and I think that's what I like about it, is that it is, and that's where we come from, so we love that. But it really is like we're just engaging in a type of humor or comedy that's just bigger than a soul place, and we felt like we're just restricting ourselves by making the comedy about where we're from. It's like, oh god, is everything just going to be like, oh, look at how funny we sound, and look at how different certain things are done up here, and it's not even that different, and it's not even that it's just authentic. I think people just relate to stuff that's authentic, and it's been made with a purpose that's quite innocent, and we did say that we started out with a lot of naive innocence. It was just a wanting to make something that was made each other laugh before anything, and now there's shared people of the area who enjoy that because they have similar influences that we had growing up with in comedy, and I guess they call it alternative humor now. They're always trying to put a name on it, and I just think it's more of a feeling that you share with people, and it's nice that is what we've really created here. Is I think it really helped our cult following, is we've allowed some of the people who maybe that comedy hasn't touched for them. It's not being accessed. They seek it from the internet, or they seek it from elsewhere, and we're like, well, we're doing it in front of you, and it sounds like the people that you live with, and we've also named it after this childhood memory nostalgic thing that you grew up with, and it's genius.
So, I mean, it's a good point there, talking about sort of the localization. As you're performing around, and obviously the feedback from your online audience, do you find that the humor varies from place to place? Do you need to make adjustments according to where you're performing, or what it is that you're performing?
It's funny. We had a quite well-known comedian from the Northeast, Jason Cook, had came to one of our live shows at a we have these shows at Laurels in Whitley Bay, which is like a small black box theatre. And Jason Cook came along and had a blast. But he runs these comedy nights at Customs House, which are it's a big theatre in South Shields, and it's like 400 plus seaters. And we have this one sketch that we'd even though we've said that we're not a fan of those stereotypical Geordie, look at what Geordie people are like sketches. We even said, well, what would our version of that sketch be? Even though we know we don't like it, like what would be our take on that? So we tried it, we gave it a shot, and even though it wasn't one of Jason's favorite sketches, it was perfect for his demographic, which was very much all people of the area. And even though it's a sketch that, because we're really focusing on the kind of, I guess, sort of absurdities or attention to detail and just mannerisms and nuances in northern people, we really hone in on those in this sketch, and I think it was just a real, like, it was like it was a real nice brew for some of those people in that audience, where we'd realized, oh, okay, we have sketches that are really kind of left field and would bomb in front of this audience, but we do have this one sketch that absolutely like brings the house down with them. And it's nice to think that even though we would have said, oh, we hate that, so we're never going to entertain it, we're realizing that it's how we make stuff. It's the collaboration, and it's the voice of how we make stuff, which will in turn change the stereotype. Or I don't know. It's just like seeing your favorite band play a cover of a different band. I don't know. It's like it sometimes it can still work really nicely, and that was the first taste of that, I think, where we're like, right, well, this demographic could work for us, so let's sort of, you know, and we already had that sketch though, which was mad. That gig came very soon after we came up with that, and we didn't come up with that sketch knowing that we were going to be performing it to like 400 of people who are like, you know, my mom and dad. So it was yeah, that was pretty cool.
And I've found when we've played outside of Newcastle, I think because when we put the sketches in and how we coming up with sketches, they're not really self-referential in a sense of being Geordies. I guess any self-referential is to our own kind of world that we've built as Metroland, as this kind of weird dystopian surrealist place where any character can kind of seem normal. I think we really rest our laurels on say where we might not be understood because we're all shouting in quite, you know, thick Geordie accents or whatever, is the visual of us and what we've set up should all be doing all the missing pieces. Should be. I'm not saying that they do, but you know, when we're working right, that's what should be happening. And one of our influences for that was Limmy, because I remember watching Limmy and being like, if he's unapologetically Glaswegian to the point where even myself, who's very good at, you know, understanding Scottish, you know, many Scottish accents, you know, that first episode of Limmy I watched, I barely understood anything. It was like watching Shakespeare, you know, when they do Shakespeare properly, and you're like, what are they saying? I remember watching, was it Macbeth? They did a version of Macbeth with Michael Fassbender, and it was all in like Shakespearean, like Glaswegian. I was like, I couldn't understand. It was all shot beautifully, but I didn't know what was going on one bit. But I think there was this thing with Limmy where it was like his humor really sung through that. So then you watch because you are finding it funny, and then down the line you actually pick up what he's saying, and it's almost as if the words themselves aren't necessarily the most important thing about the sketches. And I think that's something that we've looked at stuff that we don't want to do, or at least rely on, and one of them is a lot of sketches, especially sketch shows that have came about, you know, in recent years, and then even, you know, I guess your likes of you know, the legacy sketch shows that you get, you know, if that's like the Footlights or Durham Review or places like that. They're very intellectual, they tend to be, from my understanding, and very word heavy, very wordplay heavy. Whereas we've kind of tried to really incorporate the fact that we can act and set up scenarios and have just funny imagery just by itself on stage, and trust that that's funny enough to not need words.
Yeah.
So I think that's helped us in where maybe the communication has let us down, as we've put a lot of thought into them other aspects.
Yeah. What is the division of labor like? How do you come together as like writing and production, and who does what?
Well, it's kind of a beautifully constructed chaos, or it's a beautiful mixture of, like, you know, I think if someone has a premise or an idea, or even if it's something as simple as like just a visual gag, we all very much feel welcome that we can bring it to the group, and I think there's something in it. What's good is that once you've got a trust for each other and know that what we're all trying to make, if someone says something that's interested them, but it might not be funny to you straight away, there is this thing of, well, you know, there must be something there enough for us to sort of build on it. And then, you know, it becomes like, I guess by the end of it, we're all trying to take receipts, because then we're like, you know, it all gets a bit muddy on who came up with what, but we are all, at the end of it, it is really, like we said, it's bigger than one person, and you do kind of, so that part's always like really, you know, beautiful. And then I guess we're now, because we're trying our best to be legit. There's a lot of admin now, and a lot of things that we have to do that require us to sort of be, you know, and that's the hardest part for us, because we are all just we're creatives through and through, and we're really just not. We just kind of do the desky stuff. So we're we're really at a nice point, I think, where there's essentially just a freedom to, you know, and now that we're playing with different formats, so we've got, you know, the live stuff, and we've got film sketches, we've got sketches that we do, and we've started doing character pieces through doorbell cameras, which are great kind of bits to do sort of improv between each other, and a really streamlined way to make it. So then we got micro sketches that we sort of shoot with a real Instagram kind of aspect ratio. Just it's great. We find that the comedy it's really stretchy and bendy. We can like work it into a lot of other things. I've never had more confidence to sell out. I'm like, give us a Coke ad or something. Like we could make.
Sorry, I found that really funny.
I do think we can like it can meld into other worlds, and you know we all get that and understand that, and you know and then I guess you get into the nitty gritty of then you're booking your shoots, and you sort of we're booking rehearsals in, and we do have a good amount of time of sheer messing about, I'd say, in the nicest way. Or like we think it's good. We're getting our brains nice and fruity, and we all work. The majority of us work other jobs, so our rehearsals are like these weird evening nights of just madness. Like we'll just kind of take ourselves down a path, but it really keeps it the creativity flowing. It is quite therapeutic. We just kind of,
I mean, you see that we
that
spent a couple of nights ago just sitting, barely doing anything, just all of us just knackered, just like, should we do that thing? Like it's like it's like sorry Jack, sorry, but it's hard. You got to push through it as well, because you know, because that people argue over a joke, but it is that thing of it's bigger than us, and it's bigger than one joke, or it's bigger than yes, I know me and Jack I think tend to have a bit more of the back and forth, and some of the boys have said before it's mom and dad arguing.
You used the word chaos a minute ago. I mean, how far is it such a world of difference between that carefully prepared and structured and shot film comedy, and then going out and trying to do a live performance when suddenly you don't have a do-over? It's all there, and the audience is there. Do you build in a flexibility for improvisation, or does it all just go to hell?
No, it's well, all of the above. It really, I think we really, I know me personally, I do love stuff that's just really self-aware, and I think comedy and self-awareness on stage works great. Even when we've done film sketches, it's funny to think that the edit is self-aware, and it's like the editor or the edit knows what's going on is funny, and it also has its sort of say. And we have a sketch that is essentially based off an old drama game, which was used to essentially sort of train yourself up to not laugh if you had the giggles, or if you were really couldn't get through stuff. You'd play this game that was essentially to get all the giggles out before you get going. It's like, right, let's just sort of get them all out now, and it's not as easy as that. If anything, you just unlock this beast that has no discipline other than to just laugh at everything that's said. Almost everything becomes funny. But we loved we used to do, when we started rehearsals, we'd play this game because it was like that. you know, we're always trying to keep each other on our toes with bits of improv, especially in rehearsals. It's like that's the best time for us to just, you know, all right, that's it, that's funny, that's going in the show. We run with that. And so we have this sketch that's in the Fringe show, where it's essentially one of us is out on the stage, and their aim they stand facing the audience, and the rest of the cast line up behind them to this regimented sort of like bugle trumpet, like sort of old timey warm tune ditty, and we all sort of like come out behind them carrying holding cream pies, and then we all go up one by one, and the aim is to, you've got complete freedom to do anything to try and make them laugh, and if you don't make them laugh in the little time that you have, you cream pie yourself. But if you manage to make him crack and you laugh, then he gets the cream pie. And obviously, as you can imagine, by the end of it, that us and the stage and everywhere is just cake. The whole front row are just caked in bits of cream pie, and it's just, you know, we grew up on that resurgence of chaotic comedy that I think was really like, you work your way back. The second my dad showed me Vic and Bob, I was on board, and I knew anything that was like a young ones. And I think we kind of had even though I still feel like an absolute child in some older people's eyes, I'm like, I do think we came from you know, we did things like Dick and Dom, which were like suspiciously like mental for a first thing in the morning, or it was like they kind of just had this element in their shows that was just playing with that dancing on the line of chaos and order. And that is where some of the best stuff comes from. So that cream pie sketch, I think, is like, I like that we're very regimented in the format. In the opening, it's got that feeling of like, right, this is a sort of, and then it just goes into, you know, this is a wonderful ascension into chaotic comedy.
Yeah. It's interesting because I remember that one of the things that Morecambe and Wise always used to say is that we can never know that what we're doing is funny. Just playing it very serious, which is great for television and film. That always works. But when it's live, it feels like the more that the performer's corpse or clearly having the best time, that's funnier for the audience than if it was straight down the line. Do you think that holds true?
I think it's definitely been one of the charms that we've had when we've messed up. Because normally when we mess up, it's because we found it funny, or something's happened in the room. And it's a beautiful, I think that's the true shared experience in live shows, especially for what I've experienced when we're performing, is because for that moment, everyone in the room is laughing at the same thing for the same reason. And that is, you know, how's that not unity? You know, and there's been some great, we've got this one sketch that John does where he makes he's like a cooking show. He's never been able to get through that without breaking, and that always makes people, I mean, we've performed it a lot of times, and he's never done it without breaking. So let's see what, after 27 straight nights, if he still laughs. But that's always, I've had people come up to me and say it's funnier when he laughs. It's interesting, it's how people interpret it, but that is, and again with the cream pie is, you know, because I've been the subject of the guy who has to not laugh for the most part, and there's like, I can normally hold it until the second round. So everyone's got 2 cream pies, and it's by the second round I can't. And it's almost like that scene in the not the Holy Grail, the Life of Brian, when he's saying biggest thickest, and the guy's like, and he's like going cross. It's like that. It's like that live, and and then there's always this moment where when someone got his. You know, the whole, I would burst out laughing. I'd get cream pied in the face, and the whole audience would erupt in applause because they've just been waiting for me to get pied. And it's when that sketch is at its best, it's euphoric.
Yeah, it is. It's a beautiful dance of just like it is like I said, it's that dancing on the line of order and chaos. Like, people know where we're obviously going to try and do. I think people go into it knowing that we are going to try and do this material to the best of its ability. We work very hard on it. Like we are sort of disciplined, very much going into it, but we do know that it's always on the table for, like, you know, if this goes off the rails for a bit, like, let's just sort of, you know, or what is it? Yeah, if this ship starts to sink, let's just like start playing it off and really, like, because then, yeah, that's how you bring it back sort of quick as well. Like, you know, we're all able to poke fun at each other, and I'm realizing now that I think that is a great thing about us that we have. And I think some of us came from sort of acting backgrounds, and they always say, like, you know, you can't be seen having fun, or, you know, it's not like you said about Morecambe Wides. The fun's not for us. It's not for us to sort of laugh at. And I do believe in that. We have stuff that you got to pay justice to the material. But when you've witnessed a moment that, like Caden said, just happens right then and there for everyone, no one else, and you're all on the same page to why it's so funny, and you've seen the curtain drop, and you've just seen all the, you know, the little tiny man in Men in Black, when they, like, reveal the face, you see the tiny little guy. It's like, oh, it was all just. And we're like, yeah, that's what's fun about this. Like, it's we're all just, there's loads of tiny little men inside of us, like, and we're all just like.
Fair enough.
All right, yeah, sure, Jack, whatever, yeah.
All right, yeah. Duly noted.
Right.
Your debut show, Metroland Live, The Box, at this year's Fringe. So the first question, obviously, and you have alluded to this a little bit, but what can we expect to find from the show apart from custard pies? We're looking at some familiar characters and something new.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Go on, Jack. You go, because I don't want to answer that question right now.
Yeah. We've got a nice sort of healthy mix, of characters, a few characters that have came from our online sketches, some that were just complete the second we knew we were making a live show. We just write new format, let's attack this how we do with the film stuff, but play with these new sort of parameters. And it's great because we have sat on a lot of this material for quite a bit now, but, you know, building a name for ourselves, and now we're able to get it in front of more and more people. But we don't find it as funny in rehearsals now. We're just trying not to change it. We're just trying to really believe in that, you know, no, there's a reason we've gotten this far. So we'll sort of, you know, there's always room for expansion, but it is going to be daft being able to play that many shows, doing the sketches that many times for these, you know, characters that we've grown to love and are now in this bigger world of actual real industry. It's going to be. I'm sorry, I don't know if that answered the question.
I think if I was to jump on that, I would say we named ourselves after a theme park for a reason. And that theme park boasted the world's largest indoor roller coaster, right? And that's what we got to compete with. And I think that's effectively what we're putting on. It's a roller coaster. I think you're not going to see a lot of the twists and turns coming. We're going to take you to some places that might be a little uncomfortable, but we're straight out. Do you know what I mean? It's a ride. The whole show is just a ride until right at the end we reveal what's in the box, and there you have it. And it's kind of like it's just a bit. It's a ride to the end journey. And the end journey is what it is, and it's done. And that's it
is what it is.
That is an incredibly specific yet absolutely vague answer.
Yeah, a lot of words saying nothing. Well done.
Yeah, just great words in a row.
How Shakespearean of you. Have either of you or any of your teammates experienced Edinburgh the Festival before, as in acting capacity, or as in other comedic forms, or is this like are you virgins to the Fringe experience?
Yeah, so Jack Fairley, one of our cast members, has been to the Fringe before as an actor, and sort of sort of worked on someone else's writing, and I myself have always travelled to the Fringe every now and then to see other acting friends or in stuff, but never been in something myself. It's actually always been it's never sounded quite fun to me, because the amount of actors that I've met and seen have just been like, oh, it's an absolute misery from start to finish. And I just feel like as an actor, it's not spoken to me loads, but what I have seen is that comedy really lives a whole different life out there. And, a lot of these actors I know would have been playing really difficult slots at really difficult times and venues. I'm somewhat very aware of the Fringe and its ongoings. Never played there myself. This is my first sort of acting debut at the Fringe, and the fact that it is my own thing that I've written is now becoming quite surreal. I think about it. And what a slot we've managed to land. But I'd say pretty much the majority of us, all of us bar one, as far as performing goes, are Fringe versions.
And even then, Jack's never done comedy, I know Jack was saying to me, he was like, it feels completely different now, because
Jack Fairley,
because he was like, this is the first time I'm going up with something that I feel like I've got ownership over, and it's comedy, and I'm excited. Like when he's done it in the past as an actor, it's like, all right, another 26 nights to go or whatever. And now he's like, he's got a completely different anticipation. So I don't know if he's, it's almost like a born again experience for him or something. But he definitely has a different view of approaching it now compared to when he has in the past.
Yeah. Me and Caden went down to the Fringe a couple of years ago on a shuttle bus that was provided by Northeast Screen, the Northeast Comedy Hothouse, and we essentially, it was just, you had a day. We had a day down there to check it out, and we were like, oh, we're gonna go see all these shows and stuff, and we ended up just getting really drunk in Pleasance Courtyard and didn't see any shows. We were like, wow, we need to get a show here.
We are normally the guys who miss the event to just be chatting in the parking lot, drinking beer.
Always the best time to make a decision. Certainly, yeah. Well, you talked there about watching comedy and other comedians, and obviously, some of those inspirations like Trigger Happy TV. Do you still watch comedy in the same way?
That's a great question.
I feel I watch. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, well, I think we're probably going to have the same answer, because we've spoken about it before. But yeah, I'm definitely find myself as more of a comedy snob nowadays than I was before. But I also have this deep respect for when it's great. Like I just like, I view it as like it's just this should be, if you could physicalize it and put it in a frame and hang it up in the Louvre, like you would, because it's just not easy, man. It's just so difficult. It's birdsong to people. It's about like speaking to people's sort of, that thing in them that makes them, especially, when you catch someone with a real big belly laugh, when something really just makes you, I have these moments now afterwards where I'll just be saying for ages, that's genius. That's genius. That's genius. That's genius. But yeah, very much snobby in the same capacity now. If comedy just isn't hitting that thing, I'll just cancel it.
Yeah, I find I get the two responses. I'm either like overwhelmed with how good I think something is, or bitterly angry at the fact that they thought that they could put that out and say that was comedy. And it's hard. It's made it. I think it's made this weird thing where now it's almost like I feel like it's a compliment if I find someone funny and I say, I hated that you came up with that, because almost like it's like, why did you see that and I didn't? Or like, it's like, in some way it's like, or I hated that you got it perfectly right. Like I don't, it's obviously not the right word to use, but there is this like, this appreciation or competitiveness. There is like almost a competitiveness in myself sometimes with getting to the joke or getting the connection or whatever that is. I mean, my favorite comedian of all time is Norm Macdonald, and I find myself just in rabbit hole YouTube videos of just watching him just being who he was, and just thinking this guy never cared whether anyone else found him funny or not. He just continued being him, knowing that someone would, and if no one did, maybe that was funny anyway. Yeah, so that's been like kind of a lot of my. I mean, actually, we've all been recently rewatching the what was it, the Four Yorkshiremen sketch by Monty Python.
Yeah.
Especially the one they did a one with Rowan Atkinson, and the fact that there was something about the addition of Rowan Atkinson, even though the script is exactly the same, and they were very particular on their writing. The performance of Rowan Atkinson, I feel, just excelled it to another tier. That we've all been doing our own little versions where whenever one of us says a complaint, one of us has to top it in the same style as the Four Yorkshiremen.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm familiar with Jack, Where It Ends, with podcast alumnus Lauren Patterson, which is a great show. And of course, you've both co-created Hull. Hull. I think that's how it's pronounced. Do you find that you have comfort zones between writing and film production and live performance? Do you find that you each have a sort of a place where you're happiest?
There's such big shifts in how you make stuff. So you find, like, I think we're very ingrained in the live stuff at the moment. So we're very like in that world. It is hard to kind of like just suddenly switch to now let's make this comedy to film. Like sometimes you'll come up with sketches that'll instinctively I think that might work better as a film sketch than something like on stage. So that naturally recently I've then just kind of put that idea down and thought, well, then when we film something we'll come up with that, because it's just lots of mental games, you know. It's such you're really thinking about the science of how jokes work, and it's going beyond just you know, pee-pee and poo-poos. It's like it's really
Well, you say that and yet we both laughed, so
yeah.
It'll never not be funny.
Yeah, it's kind of I think we definitely hit a comfort zone when we're in those worlds, or I definitely feel like that, and I'm, you know, I'm not mad at that. I like that we really pay all of our attention into the thing that we're making at that point in time, instead of having a bit of a hand in something and a bit of a hand in that, and then the quality of the work maybe isn't there because we're stretched and we're trying to do sort of too much. But there really was a flow that we hit when we were filming sketches where it became just a bit easy. It was like we just were on a roll, and we knew what we were making was funny. We were getting that immediate response from the sketches, you know, great, which really pushed us as well, was realizing that we'd had actually made something that people like and not just us. So that you sink more into the comfort zone of like knowing, I guess, what people like, but then also just still trying to keep that balance of making ultimately what we want to make. We've got a few sketches that definitely are Marmite for people, but then we know we just will absolutely die at them. We will still laugh at them the hardest to date. And I'm starting to realize that, yeah, maybe we're just a bit overly indulgent in what we really like, but then who cares? Who's telling us? Who's going to stop us?
Yeah, it is a bit getting high on your own supply a little bit, like, sometimes, but we made it for us to begin with, right? Yeah, so we had definitely we started doing a lot of mockumentary stuff, and we found in that first year it was like, I think we both we did one and we shot it within an afternoon and then edited it that night. And we were like, it didn't feel like a challenge. I don't know if it was that, not that it wasn't a challenge, but like, obviously we still had to make it, but we just didn't, I think we didn't click with that format anymore, and we wanted to push ourselves. And so we changed, we've changed how we've approached every sketch since then, I think, or at least we've tried to put little aspects in that can keep it interesting, or little rules, or Like, so we got a one where it's we imagine what paintings are saying on a wall. And every time it speaks, we just have like a shot of the painting. So it was like, can we get away with just having nothing happen on the screen? And it's just the dialogue of what this guy's imagining looking at the painting. And so we play along with that quite a lot. I know for me, I struggle a lot with aimlessness. So I like to have projects. I like to have like that's got a definite beginning, middle, and end, and then I've got something to show for it at the end. And I know that's so. Then when it came to like, we do a whole series of videos, and that was effectively one project, and that was a summer. And then we had like Hull, which was a almost ambitious film that we made off our own backs. And then the live show. I mean, we did our first live show that went really well, and then we were like, should we do a Christmas show? And we, because we're all lazy procrastinators. I don't want to say lazy actually, but because we're all hyper procrastinators. I think we wrote it in 6 days and we're performing it the next week. It's like, it was like, oh, we just got by on this one.
We've turned up to sketches and we've not had an ending. And we've actually asked people to take time out of their day to come film with us. And we're like, yeah, we actually don't know where this is going to go. I think we're just going to kind of work it out at the moment. And, so far we have really like, we've definitely gotten away with it. It's a nice spot. Like I said, like that flow state I was talking about when we were filming. It's like, I guess it is a comfort zone, but I guess it also just feels like a bit of a runner's high where you just kind of, it's all making sense. And it's all kind of like, and I find it harder the more I step away from making Metroland, even though I love the work that I'm able to do outside, and the work that it's produced for me is amazing. But I do find I come back to it, and it's hard. I'm realizing how hard it is to sketches in particular, because it's just so, I've spent so long to, they want to commit, you want to get something, a sitcom or a commission made, right? That's the kind of, as far as like comedy goes, like that you're pushing towards sitcom. Whereas when we were making these sketches, there's something that felt so, and I'm sorry, I know you brought up film, so sorry to take it back to the sketches, but there was this thing of it's the attention span as well of people, and how you watch stuff, and that's kind of how we think, and it was how we made stuff as well. It was like we were making sketches in a sketch-like way that was very like one after another, and we'd shoot 3 in one day that were like, all very different, vast from each other, and kind of sitting in that. So I guess when it came around to things like Hull, it was like we were filming it with this thing of like, this all feels right and nothing feels like it's going wrong, but I still don't know if it's going to work. Like, I don't understand how it's like we'll always have that thing of like, this, we could sit in the edit and just be like, oh God, what? And I think we kind of did that actually, which I think another reason why we knew we were maybe onto something good was sitting in that first edit. It was a bit like, I'm not sure, but in fairness, the opening shot, if anyone ever sees it, it's all physical comedy. That there's no dialogue for the first sort of 5 minutes, I think, or something. And there's a once I'd realized that we'd nailed the joke opening the film with no dialogue, I was just like, again, I think we're just actually fine. I think we're just I think we're okay.
Hull's an interesting one because it is kind of it's complete. I think when people have seen it, they were expecting like a Metroland sketch, but this is a Metroland film effectively, and we've I don't know. I think me and Jack love just the things that have came before, in that kind of sweet spot of like the 90s, 80s, or whatever. A movie. I mean, one of my favorite films is The Jerk, with Steve Martin, and I think it's a masterpiece. And I'll rewatch that today and be blown away and remember jokes or quote jokes, and I'll buckle laughing. And I think there was something of that pace, the pacing of films back then, before the sort of digital revolution of TV and film. And so we set it in the 90s. Just for an excuse to maybe get back to a certain type of pace, and it's a very subtle film. Well, to me, it's not subtle, but it's in terms of the humor, is very under the radar. But we put a premiere on last year, and filled the room with people who wanted to come and see it, and it was a fantastic experience. That it was because they were all fans and they got our humor. They got every joke, the jokes that were subtle, the jokes that were anti-jokes, or whatever it was. It's been a beautiful experience. But I think when we've got it in festivals and stuff, or even just shopped it around industry people, they've not. I don't know. It's not everyone's. It's definitely not everyone's taste. And it's a little it's underwhelming for some, but again, it's which I guess you don't want from a film, if you want it to be. But I guess
Is that on the poster?
Underwhelming for sure.
Underwhelming for some.
Yeah, maybe. But for those who love it, they absolutely love it and can't get enough of it. And to me, I'm like, well, we've won.
Yeah. So from the great highs and to the great lows, then it seems only a perfect time to ask the question: what so far have been your best and worst moments in comedy?
The best moment for me was playing Jason Cook's club, because we went from playing to the most we'd ever played to was packing out this room, like upstairs in a pub, to 90 people, and like that being like a big buzz, to then going on stage to 440 people and praying that our material came across all right, and we didn't anticipate how big the laughs would be in the room, and it was a crazy feeling, because it was like, I'm not saying that, I'm not saying, oh, we're great. For that audience, we killed, and that was the best feeling in the world. It would nothing, I don't think, will beat that, unless we get another opportunity. I don't know. That has been the highlight for me.
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, yeah, you took the same show that I was gonna take, and I spent your answer.
That's why I went first.
Yeah. Yeah, that was bizarre, that show, because I was one of the characters who opened up the sketch, but then I spent the majority of the sketch lying on the floor on the stage, pretending to be sort of unconscious. So I had a really surreal moment where I was just laying there and feeling the floor, feeling the stage vibrating with laughter, and hearing me and my mates doing all this stuff in sketch, and all around us, and it was like, it was one of those, like, see it in a movie things where, like, I just felt like everything was just going to fade to black. But it was all that kind of, we really came such a long way, and that was one of our past cast members, Mark Kenny, that was his last show, and he delivered his last line the best way he'd ever delivered it. It was spot on, and he got an applause for it. And then he left, and I was this weird moment where I was like, it's like he's getting applauded off. Like, he's really, like, that's him gone now. And it was like a really, the whole gig in general was really surreal, because that was the closest we got into this taste of, us doing a comedy show for, like, a packed out sort of massive theater. So yeah, that was big. Probably my comedy low was my dad saying that he's disappointed in me. There was a start. I remember when we first started the sketches, there were some of the characters I was coming up with were very like Britney when she shaved her hair, and I was just a bit like, I just need people to look at us. And I remember my dad was like, "This is just shock humor for the sake of it, son." And I was like, really like, oh, but I think it's hilarious, Papa. So it was, but he gets it now. Now he turns up to all of our shows, and he's an absolute bits, and he gets it. I mean, Caden, your mom had quite a funny description about realization.
Yeah, my mom, bless her. I would show things, and she'd be laughing along with my dad. And my dad got it. I mean, my dad, I used to watch, Shooting Stars and everything with my dad. Like, my dad really is a massive comedy fan, and I've grew up with that. And he loves Vic and Bob, and my mom never really got Vic and Bob. I don't think she ever really liked them. And then this is like a year after us already putting out sketches and making them. And she would laugh, or she'd try to, pander to whatever it was I'd shown her, and she'd seen our boy making this almost grotesque thing in her eyes, and then one day she just went, "Oh, I get it now. It doesn't mean anything. That's why it's funny. It doesn't mean anything." And it was like this really bittersweet moment for me where, all right, my mom's kind of got it, but also she just thinks it's meaningless. And I'm like, I don't know which one to address or whatever. I'm like, yeah, okay, Mom. Yeah, sure. It's funny because it's meaningless. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. But if that gets the laugh, that gets the laugh. So I'm okay with it.
Guys, how can we find out about you and where we can come and see you performing?
So on our social media, it's at Metroland Comedy, at Metroland Comedy on Instagram, Facebook. If you type in Metroland Comedy on YouTube, all of our sketches are up there. We have a link tree in our Instagram that goes straight to our Kickstarter as well, to sort of help us get to Edinburgh Fringe. Anything would really be massive help. We've got some pretty funny rewards on there. We've used our opportunity to create some like pretty funny, chaotic, interesting sort of give back to people who donate and pledge. And yes, and keep eyes out for Hull as well. Hull ? That's hopefully I think we're gonna have a release of that soon. And was there any other socials, Kate? That's all of them, right?
Well, TikTok. Well, I think we're on most of it. The only one that we're on, but we don't really use, is X. I think none of us are quite boomers. I think none of us really get X or Twitter or whatever. Instagram's where we're mainly active, but TikTok and all the socials, we've got Linktree in every social, and YouTube. If you want it, every one of our sketches is on YouTube as well, and that's probably the best way to actually watch them.
And so my final question then, how would you sum up comedy in a nutshell?
It's really, really pretentious, but I do keep saying it. I think comedy's it's a shameless bird song, and I think it's a language that speaks to certain people. And my one of early acting teacher I had, he always told me there's no shame in comedy, and that's something that's always that's allowed me to have this sort of freedom to feel like I can truly make and sort of and do what I want within that world. I think, and I hope that's answered the question.
I had someone ask me once why I make jokes out of everything, and I answered, because if I don't, I just think about dying all the time. And so to me, it's this
life support.
It's life support. It's a way of understanding stuff, or even if I don't understand stuff, at least I can laugh at it and it doesn't have any power over me. It's the thing that holds back the mirror to reality, but doesn't look grotesque when you view it. It's kind of a warm thing, and I guess if I had to sum that up, when they say laughter is the best medicine, when you truly can laugh from a place of freedom, then I think there's a little bit of healed that's in you, right? Maybe that was all just nonsense.
Guys, thank you so much. I've genuinely loved this. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark. It's been great.
It's been a pleasure.